Well, hello everybody out there in sports land, the YouTube sports land. It is Matt and Russ coming to you on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon in Orlando, Florida. Not so beautiful
Yeah.
in Marble Falls, Texas.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful in my opinion. I think it's fantastic. So
Little rain's always good.
nice, rainy and dreary. I love it.
Absolutely, it's relaxing, right? Gives us the chance to pull up some articles online and get excited for what opens up this Saturday. What is it, Russ?
It is the return, the long-awaited return of college football season. It's been, man. It always feels like it both takes forever, but also goes quickly at the same time. It's interesting. So it's not like necessarily like the other professional leagues where there's just content necessarily year round. There are definitely some dry seasons, unless you're a die-hard fan of somebody. But it's been a lot of chaos, a lot of. I feel like the past year or two, it's been a lot of content coming, just with all of the changes happening and conference realignments and all that. So it's been consistent, but it's finally here. We don't have to wait anymore. Let's go.
Absolutely. So the first normal season, to your point, in about 3 years, right? We had
Yeah.
even
Oh,
some COVID
yeah.
cancellations last season. As strange as that sounds, things have
Yeah.
have come a long ways in just the past year. And I remember 2 years ago, having just moved down here to Florida, being out on a run, listening to podcasts. Are we going to have a season? Are we not going to have a season? If we do, are like both teams going to get COVID if like one of the offensive linemen happens to have it? And so here we are. We are in what we affectionately call week 0 of the college football season, right? Because not everybody's playing this week, but it is a pretty decent slate this coming Saturday.
Yeah.
So got a few
Yeah.
decent games, got some bigger name teams to kind of open up the year. Not necessarily the best opponents, but hey, it's here. We're gonna get, I believe, College Game Day on Saturday morning, and so we're happy, right?
Hey, absolutely. I think people, whenever they're there, even if their team isn't playing, they're just happy. They're just happy to see it back on, to be able to kick on Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, whatever it may be, and just watch some guys beat up on each other. So
Absolutely, yeah. They're tired of hitting each other, right? So it's time to hit another school, even though it might be Division One AA school or whatever the case might be. But no, we're excited to see that. So what we thought we would do today, we're going to go over conference by conference. We talked a little bit about the overall picture of college football 2 weeks ago on our August 9th show. But today we're going to go conference by conference. Just going to talk about who we think our favorites are there, what the odds are, and then we'll each make a pick and we'll write those down. And somebody will get harassed later on this season based on.
yeah, there is nothing better than having your thoughts and your official predictions publicly out there to go back to,
Absolutely.
because then you be humiliated later. It's the best.
And
So
being on YouTube,
really,
I'm sure everybody's gonna be very kind down in the comments, telling us how brilliant we are now, and then coming around in about 3 months and telling us, what idiots we were, and we'll be the first ones to probably admit that.
100% every single time.
Absolutely. All right, so I figure why don't we go? Why don't we go? We'll start with the SEC, right? It seems like everything starts with the SEC these days. So we'll just
Yes.
start there, and we'll talk a little bit about the odds that are out there for college football in the SEC this year. And so we're looking at. Let's see here. You know what? Did I close down? I must have closed down my odds page. Give me
Okay.
just a second, Russ, while I
Oh
bring
no.
that back up. So talk a little SEC, Russ. Obviously got SEC West, SEC East. Got a little Texas presence there in the SEC West with A&M. What are your thoughts just overall on the SEC this year?
My overall thoughts, and this is such a homer thing to choose, but I'm going to go for it. My overall thoughts is that Mike finally stopped beating around the bush and just kind of laid out his thoughts on OU and UT leaving. And I won't hop too much into it, but he said things that you would expect Gundy to say,
Yeah.
of just I'm sure frustrated and disappointed and I like I said, I don't have it up right now, and I read it whenever it first came out a while back, so I don't remember all of it. I don't want to misquote anything, but you should go take a second and look at that. But I
Oh,
was grateful. Oh, go ahead.
if Gundy had something to say about it, I definitely want to watch it. That's always an entertaining soundbite.
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely worth. I was grateful because he was doing the politically correct thing for the first whenever the announcement came out, and since then of just kind of beating around the bush, but still getting in, some thoughts, some maybe jabs, but then he finally just came out and said it all. So like I said, I don't want to misquote on that. It's probably exactly what you think it would be. So you should go look at that, and maybe next week, whenever we come back to it, I'll be a little more prepared and I can get some vibes from it. But
It's all good, man. I
it
was
was a
I
good.
was the one that wasn't prepared, but I am now. I've got the odds up in front of me right now. So these are your Las Vegas odds as of. Let's see if it gives me a date here. This is as of the end of July, so hopefully things haven't changed too much since then. This is according to NBC Sports. In the SEC, starts off with Alabama being your favorite. If you bet $100, or you would have to bet $130 on Alabama to make $100. So they are minus 130 right now. Followed by Georgia. They are plus 150. So if you bet $100, you would make $150. And then there is a huge drop off to Texas A&M plus 1,400. Ole Miss plus 3,300, and Tennessee plus 4,000. So there's a huge drop between Alabama and Georgia, and of course with Alabama, Texas A&M, and Ole Miss all being in the West, that puts Alabama as your favorite by quite a bit in the West, and Georgia as quite a bit of your favorite over Tennessee in the East, followed closely by Florida and Kentucky in the East. So that's kind of the top of the two divisions in the SEC. What are your thoughts just looking at the SEC West with Alabama? Obviously, you got A&M there as well, and Ole Miss really kind of being above everybody. Do you like that? Do you have any hidden teams, any underdogs there to keep an eye out on? What are your thoughts?
I don't know that I have any hidden teams, any underdogs that come to mind off the top of my head. It's just hard to bet against Bama. I mean, they have been so dominant for so long, it feels like, and so they are exactly where they should be. Although I will say, I've not heard these odds prior to right now, and I might be able to toss a little bit of money on A&M, and that's not necessarily because I believe in them. It's just I feel like 1,400 plus 1,400, I think is what you said. A&M is one of those teams that I think could have a realistic chance of doing something and you actually making some money. I can't see anybody else, Ole Miss or Tennessee, or I think Tennessee's the other, but I just don't see anyone else actually having a real chance. At that point, to me, it just feels like you're throwing away money. But I'm like, okay, if I toss $100 on A&M, win 1,400, for me, that's probably worth $100. Does that
Yeah, it
make
makes
sense?
sense to me. It's a value proposition, right?
It is. It is. Is it going to happen? Probably
Probably
not.
not.
But there's probably worse ways to spend $100. So how about you, Matt? Sharing
So
yours.
absolutely. I mean, I agree with you. I don't think anybody's going to touch Alabama. I think there's a reasonable chance maybe somebody gets Alabama at some point in time this year.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
but they're not going to not win the SEC West. I don't believe. A&M to me is one of those teams that they have so much young talent. I kind of feel like they're a year away, particularly with Alabama
Okay, okay, I'm
likely
with you. Yeah.
losing some players to the pros after this season. I think you're going to see maybe A&M be the team to watch next year in that division. I'm a bit intrigued though. Just looking at the bottom of the conference, or the bottom of that division, we have LSU at plus 7,000. We also have Mississippi State at plus 10,000 and Auburn at plus 15,000. I would tend to agree on Auburn. I'm not high on them at all. I think Mississippi State and LSU could both surprise some people this year, and it actually wouldn't surprise me if perhaps those two schools, finished ahead of, I would say, at least Ole Miss. And I'm just not a huge buyer on A&M yet. I think there's a lot to be said about what's their quarterback situation going to look like and all the youth that they have. So it wouldn't surprise me if either Mississippi State or LSU finished ahead of at least one of those two schools.
Okay. What do you think the chances are both of them do?
I don't know. I think I'm not real high on Ole Miss, I guess. I think they've got some question marks also. I'm kind of surprised that they're at plus 3,300 in all honesty. I would definitely kind of fade them there. But yeah, I think LSU and Mississippi State could both finish above Ole Miss. I think maybe one of them gets A&M this year, but I would have a hard time seeing them maybe both finishing ahead of A&M. Although it could happen. It's doable.
That's the great thing is like anything can happen
for the most part, right? And kind of the same thing in the SEC East where you've got Georgia. Georgia, of course, they're at plus 150. Their next closest opponent is at plus 4,000. That's Tennessee, followed by Florida at plus 5,000, Kentucky at plus 6,000, and then moving on down the road, you got South Carolina at plus 10,000. Missouri at plus 50,000 and Vanderbilt at plus that's plus 100,000. Oh my goodness. Wow. I almost said plus 10,000. That is plus 100,000 on Vanderbilt. So
100,000 on Vanderbilt. Man, that would be insane.
That would be crazy. That's again not a bad value proposition if you just wanted to go bet, $1 or so, right? Make what $10,000 if you got that one right on $1 bet. So, but yeah, probably not going to happen.
I think it was Kevin from The Office that if anyone ever gives you 10,000 to 1 odds, you take it. It doesn't matter what it is.
Pretty much.
It sounded like there's quite a few out there. Just toss $10 on. Let's see what happens.
Absolutely. So, what do you think? Is anybody going to get Georgia this year?
I don't know. Maybe I'm sounding insane to say I could see A&M or somebody over there, just like a value proposition, but I don't think it's actually going to happen. But give me the second and third.
Yeah, so second and third in the SEC East would be Tennessee and Florida, followed really closely by Kentucky.
Yeah, to me, it feels like there's such a big gap, which is true for Alabama too. But I don't know. I've never really been a believer in Tennessee or Florida unless I see it. Since we've seen it, from Florida before, I'm struggling to think off the back of my head or the top of my head the last time we've really, really seen it from Tennessee.
It's
and maybe.
I mean, I think it was the late 90s, wasn't it, when you had Peyton Manning, and I'm trying to think the guy that was their quarterback that led them to the national championship right after Manning. But, with Phil Fulmer as their head coach, it's been a long time.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's one of those that both Tennessee and Florida are always in the mix, probably because of who they are, right? But it just feels like it's so rare that it actually has like a real chance of happening. And maybe some of my disdain for Tennessee continuing to try to poach Gundy, 3 or 4 times is coming through. But I don't know if I believe it. And yet I see a path in the other side that it could happen for Bama, although small. So all that to say, I'm going with boring. I think it's Georgia, and there's not really a chance for anyone else. How about you?
I agree with you. I think, just sneak peek, I think Georgia's going to make the playoff along with Alabama again this year. That being said, behind them, I totally agree with you on Tennessee and Florida. I think Tennessee is on the right track. They've got a capable athletic director, a capable coach with Josh Heupel. Both those guys came from UCF before last season. They made some good strides. That being said, I don't think that they're consistent enough really to rely on quite yet. So I actually really really like. I like Kentucky at plus 6,000 to potentially finish second in that division, and I actually
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
and I think South Carolina at plus 10,000 I think is a decent play with Spencer Rattler as their quarterback and Shane Beamer as their head coach. I think they're a little undervalued there. It would not surprise me to see both those two teams finish ahead of Florida, and I would say probably at least one, if not both, ahead of Tennessee as well.
I 100% agree with you on that. Yes, I'm in the same boat for
So,
sure.
so looking at Alabama and Georgia in the SEC title game, there, who do you have in the SEC title game? Your way too early prediction with those two.
Mm, I'm gonna have to go. I've already said it, so I'm gonna have to stick with what I've said. Although I, you know what? I'm going for it. Georgia. I'm gonna take Georgia
I
over
like
Bama.
it, Russ. I am actually going to take Alabama, but I do like the
Yeah,
pick, and I do think that a lot of people are
yeah,
underselling Georgia just because they kind of had a Cinderella story at
yeah.
QB last year. They lost a few guys to the pros, but that team is just as loaded as Alabama, and there's no reason to think they can't just retool. I like the comeback story and
Yeah.
the revenge track from Alabama. I think they're a little bit more talented, maybe, but that's going to be a close one. So we'll go ahead. We'll put Rush down for Georgia to win the
Perfect.
SEC. I'm going to
Yes.
take Alabama, and we will get Daniel's picks from him later. So maybe
I'm pretty sure Daniel's gonna go with Vanderbilt for the
Vanderbilt.
whole way.
I think he'd
So
be pretty smart to do that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to look for the nearest online sports book after this is over and put my dollar down. So, all right, let's move over to the next biggest conference, I guess. The conference that now each school is going to be making almost $100,000 a year in broadcast rights, and that would be the Big Ten. And so in the Big
yeah,
Ten, we have, of course, two divisions there as well. Ohio State is minus 235, so they are a very heavy favorite to win the Big Ten this year,
okay.
followed by Michigan at plus 700, Wisconsin at plus 1,000, Nebraska, of all schools, coming in fourth at
Okay.
plus
Okay.
1,400, Penn State at
Okay.
plus 1,600, Iowa at plus 2,500, and then Michigan State, Minnesota, and Purdue all at plus 3,000, and then there's just a huge drop off from there.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So obviously we got two divisions there as well. Who do you like as the two schools to visit each other in the championship game out of the Big Ten?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be Ohio State. As much as um, I personally struggle to just believe in
Yeah.
them, uh, and I don't really know why. Like, I've just always been that way. Like, I don't know if I was influenced by someone that I didn't even realize or what, but I just every time I see them ranked high, I just kind of roll my eyes, and then sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. But even whenever they're there, I just don't believe it until I see it, and I really don't know where that's rooted from. But you're right. It's going to be them for one. So them versus
So in the other division, you're looking at the top of that would be Wisconsin, Nebraska would be the major players. Iowa and Minnesota would be kind of at the top of the other division in the Big Ten.
I want. I don't think I can actually choose it, but Iowa wants to come to my mind only because I've seen them take some knees out from time to time. But um, I don't know. I'm trying not to just be basic and choose
Yeah,
Wisconsin, but when's the last time Nebraska did it? And that's why it's like, oh,
yeah. This could be Scott Frost's last year in Nebraska if he
yeah,
doesn't turn around the ship this year.
yeah, exactly. And I don't know what that's factoring in. I know safe money don't make none, but it's probably Wisconsin. As boring as that is, I have a hard time believing in Nebraska. Um, yeah, it feels like that's probably it. So let's see. Do you change? Are you with? Are we both going safe, or you got
I
some other
can't
ones?
believe in Nebraska. They are too inconsistent. I know Iowa has a little bit of turnover this year, but I like Iowa. I actually like Minnesota a lot this year as well. They had a
Oh,
good year last year.
no,
That being
I
said,
remember.
it's hard to bet against Kurt Ferentz. That is just such a consistent team year after year. I'm going to take Iowa to play Ohio State in the Big Ten championship
Oh,
game. And I'm assuming that we both have Ohio State winning that game. All
yes,
right.
yes, for sure.
So any surprises there in the Big Ten that you can see? What about
No,
Michigan?
not
Michigan's sitting
really.
there at plus 700. Do they have a chance to knock off Ohio State 2 years in a row?
A chance, yes, but I think you hit the nail on the head. 2 years in a row. You're right, and they said it many many times. It's a different
Yeah.
scenario, but it's hard to beat the same opponent twice, right? And although yes, it's different years, and all that, I have a hard time seeing it happen 2 years in a row. How about you?
Yeah, I don't see it either. They have to go to the Horseshoe this year too, which is going to be,
Yeah.
I mean, those Buckeye fans are going to just be crazy that day after what happened last year. So I do not see them taking down Ohio State. That being said, stay tuned on Michigan because I do have something else that I'd like to talk about Michigan with when we move on to the playoff portion of this conversation a little bit later
Yeah.
on. So let's go ahead. We'll skip forward to our next conference. Let's visit the Midwest. How about Big 12 country?
Let's
Let's
do
do
Big
Big
12
12
country. I'm,
country.
I'm a little more familiar with
Absolutely.
it. Yeah, let's do it.
Absolutely. Okay, so Big 12 country is tight compared to the others. The others we had, some
Yeah,
runaways. You don't have anybody that has negative numbers in the Big 12. So you've got Oklahoma at plus 200. You've got Texas right behind them at plus 250. Baylor at plus 550. Your Oklahoma State Cowboys at plus 650.
oh,
Iowa State at plus 1100. My fighting TCU Horned Frogs and the Kansas State Wildcats at plus 1500. And then you have a pretty big drop from there to Texas Tech and West Virginia. And then Kansas coming in way, 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 way at the end.
yeah. It's just because I'm curious, what are the odds
Okay,
for
so
Kansas? Because
yeah,
I
so
got
Texas Tech and West Virginia are both plus 4,000. Kansas is plus 25,000.
25,000. Still not as bad as the 100,000 that we had earlier,
They are
but
not.
yeah. Oh man, I don't know. Here, yeah, I need time to process because I can't. I don't believe. As much as I love Oklahoma State, I have a hard time believing in them until I see it. Especially, and I don't know that I've said this before. I I don't know that I fully believe in Spencer Sanders, and I've kind of been on that train forever. Whenever he's good, he's good, but sometimes I think he's
Sure.
foolish. But we can talk about that later. But I don't know that I can bring myself to 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 believe in Texas. I get it. It's Texas, but it's also Texas, and so I don't also just don't want to say OU. So I need time to think about this. So you go first on this.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll start with this. So Oklahoma obviously is the favorite. Brand new head coach, brand new regime. Dylan Gabriel's coming in at quarterback from UCF. He's a great quarterback. I think
Yeah, yeah,
they're
yeah.
gonna be solid there. There are some new pieces though, and I still think that their defense is growing. So with some questions on the offensive line and their defense still to me not necessarily being a top caliber Big 12 defense, although they're getting closer. I can't roll with Oklahoma. Texas is
Yeah.
Texas. I don't
Yes.
I don't
Yeah.
care how good Quinn Ewers is supposed to be. He wasn't good enough to start at Ohio State. Obviously, they've got J.T. Stroud there, and that's a pretty good situation. But he's a first year quarterback. He's going to make mistakes. Nobody's going to come in their first year and not. So I have a real hard time with Texas also. And then Baylor's got a new QB coming in. So by default, Russ, you're going to love it.
Yeah.
I am picking the boys from Stillwater. The Oklahoma State Cowboys are going to
Yes.
win the Big 12
Oh,
because they are the steady Eddie
oh,
team. They did lose some pieces from
yeah.
last year, but I think they'll reload mostly on
We did.
defense. And
Yeah.
so I like Oklahoma State to win a Big 12 where it would be tough for me to see the Big 12 champion. Coming out of the season with fewer than 2 losses. I mean, I think that whole conference
Yeah.
is going to beat each other up this year.
I completely agree. I completely agree with it's just going to beat each other up, and I
Yeah.
think it's all a lot closer than other conferences where it's like the clear cut favorites, and that's once again. I'm sorry, my camera's going crazy.
No worries,
That
you're good.
once again is going to that's once again going to hurt us with having any real us being the Big 12 with having a real shot of getting anyone in there. Man, I want to be with you, and I think I am going to pick the homer, and we can both go Oklahoma State on that
Okay.
because of all the reasons that you stated. I've been an Oklahoma State fan long enough to know that I need to see it before I fully buy in. And I'll be the first to rag on myself. Was it last year or 2 years ago? I just went in, and I don't want people to think that I'm a pessimist. I'm not, but it just felt like every single game I was like, we're going to lose this game. And then every single game we kept winning the game. And I was like, hold on, what is going on right now?
Right.
And so, but you may have swayed me. Not that it takes a lot of swaying for me to pick my own team, but for all the reasons listed, the new quarterbacks, the new regimes, that a lot, the quarterback sometimes being the second choice of other schools, quarterbacks and all that. I like it, and you have brought me to believe in my team, as silly as that sounds. So I'll go with you. Let's go Oklahoma
Got
State. I'm
you
down.
got to
Oh,
believe, Russ. You got to believe.
I do, man. And once I believe, I do believe, but I need to be brought to believe. Does that make
Yes,
sense?
sir.
And for anyone that's an Oklahoma State fan, they know exactly what I'm talking about.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Okay, so obviously this conference is a little bit different than the others that we've talked about. You don't have the divisions. You've got your one true champion, right, Russ? So who does Oklahoma State beat in the Big 12 championship game?
Well, if I'm going to believe, I'm going to believe all the way. It is going to be Oklahoma State versus OU. It is going to be Bedlam. It's going to be an insane game. And just because I faltered so much on the beginning, I'm going to fully commit on this one. It's going to look like a massacre for us. It's going to look like OU is going to come out and destroy us for the first, I'm going to say, half or so, and then we will come out, we will revenge, and we will win, and we'll go on. That's my official prediction. Let's go.
So I like it. I think it'll be OU also. Texas, if the quarterback situation ends up being a strength for them, I like them a lot in that situation also. I'm going to fade Baylor this year, not just because I'm a TCU homer, though that certainly has something to do with it, I'm sure. But I just think that there's a lot of question marks there with that Baylor team this year, starting at quarterback. And they had such a great year last year. It was a magical year for them. I just feel like they're going to take a little bit of a step back, but I still think they're top half of the Big 12 for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Iowa State is plus 1,100. I don't really see that. I think that this is their year to take a
No.
very large step back. And I think the Frogs are about right. I think, right in the middle of the Big 12, I think we're going to get a win this year, at least one that nobody thinks we're going to get. And it also wouldn't surprise me if we lost to Kansas, I say that, honestly, I say that as a compliment to Kansas because I think Kansas is highly undervalued. I am going to predict that Kansas will not finish in the bottom two of the Big 12 this year. They will finish at least 8th. And I would say that there's a chance that they finish ahead of Iowa State and finish 7th. So I think my bottom 3 in the Big 12 this year, I don't think West Virginia is going to be very good at all. I think they're going to be last. And I think you've got Texas Tech and Iowa State are your bottom 3 along with Kansas in the Big 12. It would not shock me if Kansas finished ahead of all 3 of those and had a good year.
I love it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
There you go. I
Let's
think
go. I'm going to let everyone I'm gonna let everyone peek behind the curtain for a second.
Yeah,
I'm on a lunch break and I need to eat, so I'm gonna both mute and put my video off for a second while I pick up a sandwich at Which Wich
nice.
that I already ordered back. So Matt, just keep talking. I'm
I'll
sorry
tee
to
up.
be a
Yeah,
human.
I'll tee up our next conference here. So our next conference is going to be the ACC, guys. And let's see here. We got to change things here real quick. I will be right back. There I am. Okay. So Russ will be right back with us. So let's take a look at the ACC. So ACC, we've got Clemson is your number one. They're at minus 125 right now. So a little bit negative money there. Right behind them, I shouldn't say right behind, but the next school behind them is Miami at plus 500. Then you have Pitt, the ACC champions from last year, at plus 850. North Carolina State at plus 900, and North Carolina at plus 1200, Wake Forest at plus 1800, Louisville at plus 2500, Florida State at plus 3300, and so on and so forth from there, all the way down to Duke at plus 50,000. So if you wanted to place some money on a team that would give you a value payout, anybody from Georgia Tech at plus 20,000. Syracuse at plus 30,000 and Duke at plus 50,000 would be your teams. In this conference, Clemson, I think they still have a problem on offense, and they lost their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator this year. And Russ is joining us again here, so I'm going to put him back on screen. There he is. So it looks like they are vulnerable again this year. Russ, what are your thoughts in the ACC?
So I blanked out for a second hearing you list the actual until the end of it, but I knew before we even started the pod that I was going to go with Clemson is vulnerable. So you don't have to go through them all again, but give me second, third, and fourth.
Absolutely. You got Miami at plus 500, Pitt at plus 850, and North Carolina State at plus 900.
Okay. So this is a conference that I'm going to be honest, I don't keep too much watch to. I don't really follow that much at all. So I don't know, and I know this is boring and makes for bad podcasting, but I don't know that I really have any upsets or anything. Besides, I just don't know that I believe in Clemson. So I don't know who to pick, but I mean, if I'm putting odds, if you're going to the Russell Sports books, I'm thinking there's at least like a half chance, and I know that's kind of like an edge, but I believe it. Like I think there's a 50% chance that it's Clemson, but man, I think it's really at least a 50% chance that it's not Clemson to do it. So who do you have? Help me out. You sell someone to me. Who should I believe in besides Clemson?
So I don't spend a great deal of time watching ACC football. However, I do find it to be an interesting conference year after year because there is some parity there, and so my general feeling is that Miami is a little bit overhyped. They have Mario Cristobal coming in as their new head coach from Oregon. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for him to get that program where it needs to be. So I don't like them as a championship contender. Pitt is at plus 850. We're about to find out how good Kenny Pickett really was last year for them. But it's my feeling that he was very good for them and a big part of their team. And of course, they lose him. They also are losing their top wide receiver who went to USC. And so then you have NC State at plus 900. NC State was a very competitive team last year. They just narrowly missed out on winning the conference last year, along with, of course, Wake Forest at plus 1,800 of those. Wake has lost their starting quarterback due to an undisclosed health condition. And then you got North Carolina also, who is breaking in a new quarterback. I can't profess to be an expert on this, but it seems to me like the steady pick here is North Carolina State. I just think that they're a school that maybe is unspectacular, but just really solid in every phase based on what I've read and what I saw last year at the end of the season. So I'm going to just reach a little bit here at plus 900. I'm going to say North Carolina State gets the job done and beats Clemson for the ACC championship.
I'm on board 100%.
You want to
Let's do
jump
it.
on with the Wolfpack?
I'm with you. I'm with you. Let's do it.
They've been
Listen, Wolfpack is such a great name. Let's
It
go.
is the Wolfpack. Yeah, absolutely. And they've been building something over the last couple of years. They seem like they're in the right direction. I would like Wake Forest quite a bit too, but of course they had their quarterback situation, which unfortunate, and hope their old starter gets better soon. But right now I can't roll with them not knowing more about that position. So let's go ahead and let's move on to our last Power 5 conference, at least for now. And that is going
Yes.
to be the Pac-12, which is about to be the Pac-10, which might be the Pac-nothing. We're not sure what to expect from the
Which might be the
but
best.
right now they're still the Pac-12, and of course Lincoln Riley, moving from the Oklahoma Sooners to USC, has USC as a favorite at plus 200, so nobody in negative numbers. Utah is right on their heels at plus 250,
Okay.
and Oregon is at plus 300. So you have basically a toss-up between those three
That's
schools.
really
Yeah,
easily.
and then you have a pretty big drop off. Then you've got UCLA at plus 900. You got Washington at plus 1100, and then a drop off then to Oregon State, who of course has been the whipping boy of a lot of media personalities, and then Arizona State and Washington State, the other whipping boy of the Pac-12, are both at 3300. So what are your thoughts about the Pac-12?
Um, hmm, I can't bring myself, although I don't like OU. I can't stand OU. It also was a pretty not great the way that Lincoln Riley did them.
Yeah.
I'm here to stay. I'm here to stay. This is my school. And then, I mean, wasn't it like literally the middle of the night?
It was
like,
yeah.
I'm out.
It was the next day. It
I'm
was the
done.
day after Bedlam last year. So
Like, oh my gosh. So and I'm not taking the enemy of the enemy as my friend a proposition on this. Although I can't stand OU and I hope they go 0-12 every year.
yeah,
Uh, Lincoln Riley did him wrong, and for that reason alone, I'm not going to believe in USC. Maybe they have a whole bunch of reasons to believe in them, but I'm not going to let myself believe in them. So I've always traditionally liked Oregon for one reason alone, and I think they have some of the coolest uniforms in all of college football. They continuously over and over and over have cool uniforms. I'm not going to pick them though. I'm going to go with Utah. I like it. And this is just somewhere way back in the back of my mind, right around this bald spot that I have right here. But I remember liking what they did, like seeing them last year. I think I know they ended top 10,
yeah,
right, if my memory serves. And I just remember being like, okay, these guys are pretty
they
good. Like they actually did something.
yeah they won the conference last year, and they played Ohio State relatively close in the Rose Bowl. So
Yeah, you're right, and I knew that's what I was remembering. I know that I could get that all right there. Disclaimer: I work an additional shift on top of my other job on Monday night, so if you're getting like the worst possible version of Russell each pod, I apologize for
Russell
that. But I got to
Russell
provide
is
for
a
my.
heck of a human being, and a lot of people would not hit the grind quite like you do, my man. So we appreciate you being here the day after that.
Yeah, always glad to be here. This is just fun. But all that to say, I remembered that. I just don't know that I could have vocalized all that. But I remember being like, okay, Utah is
Yeah,
something. Now, I don't know if it's a returning quarterback. I don't know if they lost a lot of starters. I don't know any of
yeah,
that.
no,
But
they've got their
between
quarterback coming
my,
back. So yeah,
okay, then, man, then that solidifies it for me. Let's go, Utah. Let's do it.
absolutely, I agree with you. It's to me, USC is the star-studded team. Lincoln Riley's new. Caleb Thompson's new from Oklahoma. They've got that wide receiver that I mentioned earlier that transferred from Pitt. But that being said, it's going to take them a season, I think, to gel. Give me the
Yeah.
steady team every day of the week in college football, because I think that they're the team that's less likely to slip up, or at least slip up multiple times. So yeah, I like the Utah Utes also in that situation, and I think that there's a good chance that they'll end up probably playing USC in the championship game would be my guess. So
Yeah, but let's take them to get it all. I love it.
yeah, absolutely. So a couple of Utahs there. So we've been pretty consistent with each other. Really, the only conference we don't agree on is the SEC. You've got Georgia. I've got Bama. So let's talk playoff, and then we'll let you go and eat your which sandwich.
So we're gonna have to hold off on playoff because I'm supposed
hold
to
off on playoff.
back right now. I know that's disappointing, but we're just teasing them to come back next week. Maybe
It's
we
a
can have
cliffhanger.
DT on there too. So let's do this. DT, whenever you listen to this pod later, because of course he goes back and listen, and we're gonna have all y'all listen to it too. He can come on in. He can tell us his picks real quick, and then we will hop directly into the playoffs. That sound good?
That sounds like a heck of a plan to me. Guys, we
Perfect.
appreciate everybody watching. Russ, we appreciate you taking your lunch break again and being with us. And we will look forward to joining you hopefully next week on Tuesday with hopefully Daniel in tow. And we'll talk college football playoffs and maybe preview some NFL at that time.
Let's do it. It was been
All
a
right,
pleasure,
buddy.
y'all.
You guys too. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.